Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Warframe. I'm your host with the most, as always, Francois878. And today I'd like to talk to you guys about something that a lot of the other big Warframe YouTubers kind of have already touched on back when this information was unofficially leaked. Back when it was leaked, I thought about doing a video on it, but I figured there's a good chance that DE might alter some of these simply because they were leaked, or these just may not even be the final passives. I don't know. There's a couple of different reasons that I didn't want to cover the Warframe passives that were leaked, so I didn't, and I decided to wait until they were officially implemented into the game. And finally, in update 18.13, they have been. And don't worry, this is not going to be the only episode of Let's Play Warframe for episode 18.13. There's so much in this update that I have to break it up into multiple episodes, or it was going to be a 45-minute long, just me rambling about all the stuff that they added. But Warframe passives are something that have been kind of a weird thing in the game until now, because some Warframes have passives, but they weren't called passives. You know, they were anything but passives, so that DE wouldn't have to say, well, some frames have them and some frames don't, and run into those sort of balancing issues. But now, finally, after, what, 3 years, we now have every frame in the game having a passive ability, and it's hit or miss. I'm not in love with all of them, but a lot of them are good. And we're going to go right through the list, and I'm going to give you guys basically my opinion on each one of them as we go. Ash, bleed procs dealt by Ash from any source are 25% deadlier and last 50% longer. This is great. Shuriken, Blade Storm, this fits his kit perfectly. It's perfect. Banshee, all weapons are treated as silent. This is, I've seen a lot of people say, well, what's the point of silence now? Banshee's third ability, if all of her weapons are silent anyways. Well, silence is a great ability, not because it silences your guns, but because it actually provides you with a level of crowd control. It stuns enemies that enter the radius of the silence bubble, and it's losing a little bit of the utility because all of her weapons will be silent now, but now you don't have to worry about keeping silence up all the time. You should keep silence up all the time, as just to make life easier on you, but it's not mandatory if you're doing stealth, and it'll make stealth missions with Banshees considerably easier. Next on the list is Ember. Whenever Ember receives a heat status effect, she'll regenerate energy and get a 35% increase in power strength. This is not when she deals a heat status effect. This is when she receives one. This is useless. At high-end content, if Ember gets hit hard enough to receive a flame status effect, Ember is dead. Yeah, this is stupid. This really needs to get looked at and reworked. I hate the Ember passive, and I feel like the majority of the community also agrees with me on that. Hydroid, every melee ground slam has a 50% chance to lure a tentacle that will last 15 seconds. Again, useless. Melee ground slams are handy, and I do perform them occasionally, but they're not really to have only a 50% chance to get the tentacle to activate, and for 15 seconds, it isn't worth it. Hydroid is one of the worst characters in the entire game, and to have such a weak passive given to him, could have been something to really help Hydroid out, and it's just not good enough. It just isn't. Limbo, holster speed and reload speed is 50% faster while in the Rift, and movement speed is increased by 10% while in the Rift. this makes sense. He is all about the Void and the Rift, so while he's in the Rift, he is getting these bonuses. I'm not sure. I'll have to play around with Limbo a little bit to see if this is really an effective passive or not, but right now I'm kind of in the middle on this. I'm neutral. I'm not sure yet. Loki has indefinite wall cling. This is not as handy for missions against Grineer or against Corpus, but if you could wall cling against Infested, where they basically can't get to you, this is a very cheesable passive, and I think that they might have to, DE might have to look at this again and do another pass on this. I'm not sure yet. It's useless against Corpus and Grineer because they'll just shoot you, so we'll see. I can't give a real good opinion on this yet. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be very useful. Mag's passive is a vacuum effect on every bullet jump. Again, useless. I'm in the party of Carrier's vacuum ability should be an innate thing that either every companion should have, or Warframe. The vacuum should be on every frame on bullet jump. If that was the case, it'd be great. Carrier wouldn't be as needed. People wouldn't have to use him as much. But right now, he is the only character that can do that, along with now Mag. And that, to me, is just a little... Now, moving on from Mag's passive, we've got Necros. Enemy death within 10 meters of Necros regenerates 5 health. I don't think this is a bad passive. I think it could use a little bit of a buff. I feel like 5 health is a little low, but at the same time, I guess this would be easy to take advantage of with certain builds and certain team compositions, so I guess this is fine. 10 meters is pretty damn close for Necros. That's definitely going to be close, even especially in high-end content. So we'll see. It's definitely one of the better passives. Just straight health regen on enemy death is decent compared to a lot of these. Nova's passive: when Nova is knocked down, she will knock enemies down within 6 meters. Totally useless. I feel like this is... 6 meters is such a tiny radius that... I don't know. Maybe, I guess, if you happen to run into a heavy gunner or a bombard and they do their ground slam, maybe it would pay off, but I feel like this Nova doesn't really need a great passive. Nova is a great frame to begin with, so... You know, all of the frames deserve great passives, but Nova's one of the ones I'm not worried about as much. Nyx's passive: enemies affected by any of Nyx's powers have a chance to lay down their weapons, become disarmed. Now, I heard a lot of people who were upset about this because they thought that, you know, oh, I'm going to mind control this bombard, and they're just going to throw their rocket launcher away and start fighting people with a melee weapon. DE has confirmed that the disarm will happen after the mind control wears off, so we don't have to worry about that so much. Nyx, this is just one more example of Nyx trying to become Loki. Like, seriously, like, this is... You know, Nyx is already discount Loki, and this passive... The passive isn't bad, necessarily, it's just... Nyx is just even more hardcore Loki, Loki Jr., basically. Oberon's passive has been changed slightly since the first leaked information, which is another reason I'm glad that I didn't do a video when it first leaked. Oberon's passive is all wildlife, neutral, or enemy faction within 10 meters of Oberon will become allies and fight for Oberon for 20 seconds. Now, I don't know if there's going to be a cooldown associated with this, or if, you know, you happen to have an enemy Kubro, you know, within 10 meters of Oberon for the 20 seconds and it doesn't die, will it just immediately rejoin your faction as soon as the initial 20 seconds are up? I'm not sure. But initially, when the information was first leaked, it was just neutral wildlife. And people were like, well, there's like 4 levels in this entire game with neutral enemy factions. You know, this is silly. Now, also, it's not great against Corpus, since Corpus don't have any wildlife allies. So, the passive... The passive definitely has the flavor of Oberon, the King of the Fairies, and all that. I like the flavor, I'm just not sure it's going to be useful. They definitely buffed it. I just don't know. It'll be great on Grineer levels, but everything else, it's going to be a little sketchy. Trinity, revive fallen allies faster from further away. It's just kind of a waste. If you're playing as Trinity, you shouldn't have your allies be going down anyways, to begin with. So, reviving them a little faster and from a little further away, I don't know, it just doesn't seem very useful to me. Trinity, again, is a great frame, and even post 18.3, she's a great frame, and I don't know. This is just kind of the same thing with Nova. Like, she's a great frame, so her getting a passive that's not, you know, stellar isn't really a huge concern. Vauban's passive, other frames within 20 meters, gives you a 25% bonus armor. Now, I don't know if this stacks or not, so you could have a potential of 75% bonus armor. Not that it matters, because Vauban is a caster, and he's got shit armor. And I just think this is a lame passive. This is not... this is a tank passive. This is not a CC crowd control caster passive. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this one. It's not a bad passive. It's a bad passive on Vauban. And I honestly, I don't know what the hell they were thinking. But Volt's, the final passive for this update, Volt, physical ground travel distance between attacks causes bonus electrical damage on next attack. The fact that it's physical ground travel kind of sucks. You can't bullet jump and get bonus damage. You have to sprint or walk. It is not bad. I like the flavor of it. You know, you're like shuffling across the carpet and then you give somebody a static shock. It's got the flavor of this passive is great, and it's fairly practical. I'm just not sure if its application will be very practical. Not a lot of people do a lot of sprinting and stuff like that. They're doing a lot of bullet jumping, a lot of regular jumping, a lot of slot. You know, we'll see. I've only gotten to play Volt a little bit post 18.13, so I'm going to try and get more. I get more time in with him and really decide if that's even worth the trouble. But that is all of the Warframe passives that were added in update 18.13. Like I said, they were hit or miss. I love some of them. Some of them are not so great, but have good flavor, and others are just straight up bad. They're just bad. But thank you guys very much for watching. I appreciate it. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for the other update 18.13 videos. I'm going to be doing one on the Volt and Mag changes / reworks, and also the changes to Excalibur, Trinity, Mirage, Valkyr, and Mesa in a separate video, because I feel like that's just too much, again, to include in one video. But thank you very much. I've been your host with the most, as always, Francois878, signing.